Trailers brought to you by Company of Heroes 2, coming June 25th. Pre-order now.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Rich, and I'm here with Steve, taking a look at Assassin's Creed, one of a couple Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag trailers released here at E3 2013. This one's actually made out of some quite cool next-gen gameplay.
Yeah, right. We've seen a lot of pre-rendered stuff for this game, and a lot of pre-rendered stuff just across the board here at E3, but this actually looks like it's running in the actual in-game engine using in-game assets.
Yeah, so I've seen the game running. I mean, there's a couple wide shots here that look like they're maybe pre-rendered and stuff like that, but there are parts of this that are definitely, I think, gameplay. But it's always tricky because they switch up the camera angles on you and stuff like that, so you're like, well, is that real gameplay? It's more in-engine footage, basically. But yeah, I mean, I've had a chance to see the game running, and what I've seen so far is really, really reassuring. It's a much more open-world style game in the sense that, you know, kind of like maybe Zelda Wind Waker, you're able to sail the high seas and go to different places with very minimal loading outside of when you go to major cities or major, like, jungle locations, the bigger locations.
Well, can we back it up here for a second? Let's
see,
because what we saw here was some fairly traditional stuff for the Assassin's Creed franchise. I mean, we see the assassin standing on top of rooftops, and you know he's taking on multiple opponents at one time, and I mean it's all super par for the course. But I love that kind of gameplay. It's what hooked me on the franchise in the first place. So I'm happy to see this. Because so far a lot of focus has been put on the pirate part of the game. So let's talk about that. I mean, we're coming up on a sort of pirate sequence here. How does this play out? Are you essentially the ship, or are you a guy on a ship? How does that work?
I mean, you're a dude on the ship, right? And you're steering your ship around. But what's interesting is, so if I actually jump back here slightly, I mean, when you saw the little spyglass, you actually use that, and I don't think they have like a UI applied here, obviously, but I can use the spyglass to read out information on enemy ships and kind of gauge, like, oh, is this some guy I should take on? Maybe not. Is this like too much for me? And the same thing applies to islands. Actually, you can get basic information about islands. You can actually, it'll give you little readouts such as there are 0 of 2 secrets here. So you kind of get a sense of like, okay, this is what this island is. This is whether I, you know, do I need to come back here? Do I need to not come back here? That sort of thing. And the other thing you're actually seeing a lot here is the dynamic weather system, and there was some of that in AC3, but this is way more than AC3, to the point where I saw basically there's a technical name for it, but basically a twister in the middle of the water.
No kidding.
You know, we were talking about it with the developers, and like, if you run into that, you will be in trouble. Like, it's not just this pretty thing over there. Like, it can run into you and cause you trouble. And you can also lure others into it, your enemies into it, which is kind of cool. You can use that as a tactical advantage. I mean, again, speaking of sort of boat stuff, let's scrub back here a little bit. I mean, you started catching a brief glimpse of it. We obviously know that the naval warfare stuff is back, but this time it's just much more, there's much more freedom to it. Because before it was like little side missions. And you're just
it was kind of an add-on to
and you were like, oh, that's really cool, but this is much more. So the idea is that now I can do so much more. I actually saw an assassination mission where Edward was supposed to go kill this guy in this port town. He was actually supposed to kill 2 guys. Killed one guy, but the other guy was like, "A hell with you," and he runs off to his boat. Now, you could have done a couple different things, but the player playing this demo chose to basically pursue him and engage the guy's boat, kind of how we're seeing here. He could have just blown the boat up into pieces and demolished it, but instead he chose to actually board the ship and take out the captain manually, which was great.
And what I like about this sequence is that we actually see what would be traditional land-based gameplay for the assassin on the ship. I mean, he's doing the same sort of stuff you would do in towns. Now he's just doing it from the deck of a ship. And with all the rigging and everything and the vertical nature of this game, I'm super into this. I'm already sold on this game.
And what's really cool about this is the mission I was mentioning, I had to kill this extra, 2 guys, killed 1 guy. I'm chasing this last guy, but I want to take over a ship. So it actually gives you a requirement like, well, you need to kill 15 crew members to take possession of the ship, and you need to kill the captain. So he took out the crew members, takes out the captain, which not only satisfied the conditions for taking the ship, but satisfied the condition of the original assassination mission. And they can kind of stack like that, which is actually something really, really clever, I think. And then from there, you can actually add the ship to your collective, to your armada that you're developing, or you can sacrifice it for parts for your Jackdaw, your sort of main ship, your enterprise of sorts.
That's interesting. There's been sort of this this management mechanic in the previous games, whether it's the homestead in AC3 or even sort of building up Rome.
The Rome.
Where you can unlock a bank or unlock a smith or an art dealer or whatever. I'm really excited to see what they do with the ship in that regard. How you can upgrade your ship.
And I mean, the other thing to point out is actually that so remember how in the last couple games you could acquire Brotherhood and then call them in to kill people.
Right.
And it was kind of cheating because you're like, I'm not ever going to kill that guy. I'm just going to call in the Brotherhood to kill him.
And you push a button and like 5 guys swarm in and you go on your way.
And that's actually now your crew, basically. So, hold on a sec. I lost my mouse. There's my mouse. The one thing I actually wanted to point out, though, is the underwater stuff. So I've been curious about this since they sort of showed it in like some of the earliest trailers. Like, what is this? Like, can I just swim everywhere?
Right.
But this spot right here where you see Edward sort of latched on to basically an anchor going down to the bottom is key. Basically, the underwater segments are isolated in very specific areas, and you actually ride this thing down, and then you can explore that specific little area. And it's not like the whole world is yours to swim underwater, and it's not like an under-the-sea adventure. Just specific areas so that they can focus on making those specific areas pretty compelling.
That's kind of like what they did with the naval combat in the previous game. It was very isolated.
Here are these specific things. I actually did get to see Connor taking on sort of a jungle-based assassination mission, which is great. They've done some subtle reworkings of the stealth thing rather than have all these little like lines dragging out to different characters, and somehow that's supposed to indicate stealth. There's just your icon in the upper left corner. If it's it can be green, it can be yellow, it can be black, or kind of blank, and just kind of gives you different conditions on whether you're in stealth or not in stealth. Next gen version looks quite good, I will say. Again, it's balancing between current and next gen, but I thought it looked actually quite good.
Yeah, I agree. I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, and the village is also, honestly, I found really impressive as well. Much more Rome-esque than, say, Boston, which I honestly felt a little boring. So, with that in mind, as we watch Edward sail off on the Jackdaw into the sunset, we too are going to sail off into the E3 sunset, where we've got way too much to do, and we'll be up until like 3 a.m. So with that, stay tuned to IGN for all things Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.